Hi everybody. Today I'd like to spend some time with you on the different pathways that are present inside of the central nervous system. In this particular video clip, we'll go over the ascending pathways, or at least the more important ones, which are called the spinothalamic pathways, the dorsal columnar pathways with the medial lemniscus inside, and then the spinocerebellar pathways. Each one of these pathways contain a couple of tracts at least. Remember that a pathway includes tracts, that is bundles of axons, plus the nucleus or nuclei to which they go in this case, or in the case of descending pathways, from which they arise. I have divided up the location of these pathways within the CNS into a right and a left side of the central nervous system. So whatever you see within the columns labeled right and left is going to be within the central nervous system. That is important for you to recognize. On the left-hand side, you see the different locations within the central nervous system: cortex, thalamus, midbrain, pons, medulla oblongata, and then outside of the brain, but still in the CNS, the spinal cord. At the very bottom here, I have written down from body, implying that we're going to arise from the body with a sensory neuron that will then enter the spinal cord, and from there interneurons will make it up towards the brain. So remember that ascending pathways consist of a first order neuron, which is our sensory neuron going into the CNS, and then usually two consecutive interneurons that run up into the brain. So let's get started with the spinothalamic pathways. We're going to just draw a typical sensory neuron that is going into the oops, I'm somehow not drawing here because I'm erasing, I'm sorry. We're drawing a typical unipolar sensory neuron that is going into the spinal cord, and it stays at this point in time on the same side of the spinal cord. The second neuron, or the second order neuron in this case, will synapse with its cell body on the right hand side of the spinal cord, but then its axon will cross over to the other hemisphere of the spinal cord and go all the way towards the thalamus. So this is our second order neuron. Notice that that is an interneuron. On the other hand, our first order neuron is a sensory neuron. Our last neuron, our third neuron, will then synapse at the level of the thalamus with its cell body and then go to the cortex, and more specifically it is going to go to the primary somatosensory cortex. I don't have all that much space here, so I'm going to squeeze that in here. Hopefully you guys can read that okay. This primary somatosensory cortex, and clearly this is our third level neuron here, or third order neuron. So this is what typically the pathway looks like along a tract of a spinothalamic pathway. Now notice that I'm starting from the right side of the body. I enter the spinal cord on the right side of the body, and then we have the decussation occurring right here. Remember, the term decussation refers to the crossing over of the fibers. Now, clearly, I could also have input coming in from the left side of the body, and then the crossing over would be towards the right side of the rest of the central nervous system. I'm just drawing one series of axons within the pathway. I hope you're aware of that.